Hey guys, welcome to another podcast with Ashley Kaltwasser, also known as Thor, because she's collecting these hammers, these Thor hammers, like they're out of style.
I gotta protect us
Protect
from
us.
the contest prep center burglars.
Yes, which we've had, which we've actually had. But you'll notice there's someone else here today, and we have here Mary from...
From Modest Muscles. I am a licensed massage therapist, and I actually just moved into this building this month.
And we are so glad to have you. We be getting massages now.
Yeah.
Such a nice addition.
So there was it's funny. So she was, so she's an awesome massage therapist, and she's actually going to talk about how it's going to help with bodybuilding, how it'll help you with your posing, your bodybuilding, everything. But funny story before we start this, we got two stories. One, congratulations, Ashley. You're an absolute warrior.
Oh, thank you.
You are the Wasatch Warrior.
Oh, good plan. Words there.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a good weekend. I couldn't have asked for anything better. Got a perfect score again for the second weekend in a row. So that's pretty exciting. Still got a lot of work to do before Pittsburgh, but
Yes.
I'm happy. I'm
we
really
got
happy.
We got a game plan already. She's going to eat a little bit of carbos. She's not going to be afraid of the carbs. And she says carbophobia. Carbophobia.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. We're medicating her with carbohydrates with rice grains. But she's on a heavy dose of rice medication. Each pill of rice, 300. We give it to her in a prescription bottle of rice.
Rice grains.
Rice grains, yes.
I count the rice grains.
And so, but anyway, congratulations. She broke the record of some chick, some no name girl. So she broke the record of that girl, 32 wins. I mean, I don't know how that girl even got it. And now she's the most winning at 33 wins.
Yeah, what the heck? How did I get there?
But the other funny story is, so Ashley wanted the massage therapist at the prep center for a while. But Ashley had her nice little quaint little office in the back. And Ashley I told Ashley, so you can pick whatever office you want. I don't care what office you take. You can take mine. I don't care. But she's like, no, I like this little office. And it was like the office in the back. But it was the dark office, which just makes a lot of sense for your room. It was like the black office too. And I was like, I didn't think that through very well. The light doesn't work very good in there, but for massage, it's great.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, if you want her here, the only office I have that would make sense would be yours. So you're going to have to give up your office, and you're going to have to take the Staiku office room, and I'll move the Staiku. And Ashley was like, no question. She's like, no, it's worth it. Totally worth it. So now we have an awesome massage therapist, and I wish we would have had it sooner because you're kicking butt in here. Everyone's super happy.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Happy muscles.
Happy, is that? It's Modest Muscles.
No, I'm saying everyone's muscles are
For
happy
a
now
second,
because
I was
of
like,
Mary.
I was like, oh, that made sense for a second. But yeah, it's Modest Muscles.
Yes.
So how's it going so far? You're happy?
I am happy.
Yeah.
And I get to brag that I stole Ashley's room.
It's still Ashley's room.
Yeah, it took a little getting used to. I actually walked in on your office one time by accident while you were massaging someone because I was so used to that office because I've been going in and out all year, and then it switched up, and then I was like, oh my God, I'm
That
so
gave us a good
embarrassed.
chuckle, though.
I was so embarrassed. Like my cheeks were like beet red. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that.
Ashley, so you guys know, it is so hard for Ashley to get Ashley to change. It's difficult. So for her to change her office, I was like, are you sure?
No, that was a no-brainer. I like my new office too, though.
I like it better for you. It's white. It's got good bright light for you. I gotta put I gotta put that rainbow brick wall thing up for you in there.
If you want, you don't need to.
Yeah, no, we'll do that.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm glad you're here. Everyone's super happy that I've heard from so far. Anyone who's coming into town wants to book with you. I don't even know if you can even fit them in now. At
And
this point.
Vegas is the town, by the way.
So you guys know, if you're in Vegas, you want to book a session with her after this. You are on Instagram as modest underscore. How did I go? Modest underscore.
Muscles _ massage.
There you go. Modest underscore muscles underscore massage.
Or just go to the website, which is...
Yep.
modestmuscles.com.
Oh, that's pretty easy.
So going into this, obviously there's and even me, I'm going to learn a lot from this podcast. So I'm excited because I know basics of this stuff, but I don't know the advanced stuff of it. So I guess for anyone, let's say I knew nothing about massage, right? Which is some of these people do or don't. What would be the benefit as like in layman's terms, like as a starting point, as a reference here for bodybuilding, I guess?
So for bodybuilding, Most people assume that you can just book an hour and get everything fixed. And typically an hour is like half the body. I do what I can, but it's usually half a body. So I tell people if it's your very first massage, I would recommend booking 2 hours so I can go through and get to know your body and then figure out everything that's wrong with it, and then we can have a game plan after that. I just let them know if this is your first one, just be prepared that it's going to hurt.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So this isn't just like one of those relaxing,
No.
like walking on your back type massages. This is, you're really getting in there. So why don't you go ahead and explain the difference between what your kind of massage is compared to, let's say, any massage place down the street. You know what I mean? One of those, I don't even know, not a
Like
chain, but those small Thai massages or whatever.
Yeah, so most of them are for relaxation.
Yes,
So-
but yours isn't.
Yeah. So, a lot of people, they're just trying to escape the stresses of daily life.
Yes.
And although that works, I think that it really only works for about the hour that you're there, and then you leave, and life is still there. So I tell people when I'm giving them a massage, I'm helping fix the actual problems. So when they leave, they'll feel better, and they'll be able to perform better.
Okay.
So-
So what are these like problems that you find common in competitors then?
Most of it is just like knots and tension. People hate stretching. So it's like I tell people, if you stretch every day, you don't have to come see me as much. And they're like, well, I'll just let you do it. It's fine. So, but the problem with not stretching is that you aren't able to use your muscle to its fullest capacity. So I have to break up all the knots, and then we work on range of motion, and then you're able to actually go and train the muscle how you're supposed to.
Okay. So in terms of what's the main bodybuilding benefit, you're going to say is mostly range of motion. I've heard theories of, if the muscle's tight and dense and you can free it up and loosen it up a little bit, that you can potentially get more nutrients in there. Is that a thing?
Yeah, because if your muscle's tight, it restricts blood flow.
Okay.
And the blood's what's bringing the nutrients in.
So better pumps,
Yep.
more nutrients, easier delivery, more range of motion, and that's like the primary benefit, right?
Yeah.
So you're working with, and you've worked with a lot of even higher level athletes as well, obviously Ashley and other people too. But so have you noticed, have they said anything in terms of benefit that they've had, anything like that, like where you've heard, hey, I'm able to get deeper in my range of motion with less pain and less joint injuries, things like that?
So I guess it will depend on the sport. So for bodybuilding, it's more about being able to work each muscle individually. So if you're doing like a pull-up and you have one side that's stronger than the other, that muscle is going to work more. So we want to get the other side activated, so now you're growing symmetrically.
Okay,
and then-
so it's more than just injury prevention. It's
Yeah.
like making sure everything's even.
Yep. That's a huge thing for you guys, is because symmetry is a big part of the sport.
Absolutely.
And so if you have a knot on one side, that side is not going to grow as much because it's stuck. It's not going anywhere. So we loosen it up, and now you can use the whole muscle instead of just like half the muscle.
Okay.
And then also if it's an inactive muscle, we activate it, and now it can train better.
That is a good thing you just pointed out, activation, because Adam, I'm sure you're getting I guess complaints from athletes that I just can't activate my glutes. When I squat, I only feel it in my quad. So this could be an issue that you might be able to help with mobility. Now, with something like that, would you just do a certain type of massage? Because I know you do different types. You do cupping, you do the myofascial release, the scraping, and all that. So what type of, technique is best for somebody that isn't able to activate a muscle?
I usually just go in with deep tissue.
Deep tissue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mary, maybe a little closer. Yeah.
Sorry.
You're just going in and out. Don't forget, we're used to it. You're not. Yeah. So deep. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I usually just I hit it with deep tissue, and then this morning I worked on a guy who said he couldn't get his lats to activate. So I worked on with deep tissue, and then what I do is I grab them and I pull them away from the body to try and get the muscle to spread out. And then I told him if that doesn't help, then he could try, you guys have that, the newbie machine.
New Fit, yeah.
You could try something like that too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's something that, Sam and Courtney are using a lot in the gym now too. So if you guys want to do that, but And basically, it's sending you like a small charge. That's Ashley says it's shocking, but anyway, basically you're getting your what they say they're bypassing your central nervous system and basically hijacking your central nervous system and getting more nerve impulses to the muscle while you're contracting, getting optimal contractions of those things. I think that using those once in a while is super beneficial, and I get a lot of I guess inquiries now or requests of like how to activate the glutes more. And I do talk to people about their pelvic lining. They're like if they have an anterior pelvic tilt, which is what most people have, and how that elongates the glutes and how that could potentially restrict their range of motion when they do that. Is that something, obviously you're stretching the psoas for that. And so I guess to break it down for you guys out there that are just hearing this, the anterior pelvic tilt is like the most common pelvic tilt lining like people have, the most common issue people have, because we sit all day long. So because we sit all day long, the muscles in front, they're called the psoas, the hip flexors, they're really tight because they're always in that semi-flexed position because you're in that 90 degrees sitting position. And so when they get tight, the muscle that's directly opposing those is the glutes. And so the glutes, if one muscle is tight, the other muscle is generally stretched. What I'll tell people with their glutes is to stretch that psoas out if you're having problems with that going into it, and then do some activation exercises. We just did like a little video on it, but is there something that you do that can potentially help get the glutes to activate for someone who has that issue, anterior pelvic tilt, which I would say probably most of the bikini competitors do? You go ahead, Ash.
And I was going to say, why don't you explain what that looks like? Because maybe they don't even know they have it. What a pelvic anterior tilt is, like, what is the physical traits of a pelvic anterior tilt? It's basically a very arched back. It kind of looks like you're sticking out your butt, and you go ahead and explain more. But
yeah, I mean, that's basically what it is. If you're watching, your pelvis is just tilted forward. Mm-hmm. So bikini girls are trying to create that arch, but you don't want that when you're just walking around regular. So you'll get a lot of back pain. And the psoas is a big problem because it attaches to the spine and it attaches to the pelvis. So when it tightens, it's like, we'll say, I hope everyone's watching, but if you have, if you're attached, like this is the spine and this is the pelvis, if you attach here and here and it tightens, you're curving the spine. And that's fine when you're on stage, but you don't want to walk around like that. It causes a lot of back pain. And so people assume that it's their back because that's where the pain is, but it's really coming from the front.
Yeah, so you're overly flexing your lower back all day long when you're in that anterior pelvic tilt. So you're kind of like walking around. If you were to give an example, would be if you have a tight bicep, then eventually that bicep muscle would get tired from flexing all the time, but your tricep muscle would get stretched for stretching all the time. So if that was your psoas, that would be your glute would be the tricep and your bicep would be the psoas. But then above that would be your erector, your lower back, your erectors. That would get really, really tight because you're always flexing that, and then your lower back pain kicks in, and then it all just goes up the whole chain. So I think that eliminating that is going to not only eliminate some pain, but also help with overall contractions, range of motion, and prevent injury in the gym. You see a lot of people who are doing, especially a lot of our girls, they do so much glute emphasis stuff that even things like just like doing glute bridges, like it does put a lot of stress on the lower back. RDL is obviously a lot of stress on the lower back. And when a muscle's already overly tight and then you're putting weight and load on it all day long and going through range of motion without ideal postural alignment, you're pushing yourself for some injuries, and I don't think you're going to be posing optimally either because of that. It's going to inhibit your just your body's natural movement. So like I said, that would probably be the most common one. So in a scenario like yours, where you're coming in, someone's coming in like that, what would you say percentage wise of your bikini competitor clients would be in that scenario?
That have it?
Yeah,
probably
at least
all of them.
It's a lot, right? Yeah. It's a high percentage.
I think just people in general, and then bikini girls are kind of training themselves to be like that since they have to get into that pose. Mm-hmm. But so one of the things that I do when I'm working with a muscle that's already elongated is instead of working down the fiber, I work across the fiber. Mm-hmm. So if your muscles run up and down, I want to spread them out this way. And so I can't really like go up and shorten it, but I can spread it this way and it will end up shortening a little bit. Mm. And then I would do the opposite on the other side. So if the other side was tight, then I would go down the fiber.
Okay, so you're going the opposing direction of the muscle fiber to open it up versus, okay, that makes sense. And I think that common route of travel would be to go along with the muscle fiber and stretch it. Like if you're doing a quad stretch, you're stretching your muscle. Like if you're doing a leg, like a quad stretch, you're usually just pulling your foot behind you and stretching your quad, which would be the long way, which you're going with the muscle fiber. And you're saying you'd actually go against it.
If it's already long. Like you're saying the glute's already long because your pelvic is short or the front is short. So I can't shorten it necessarily by going up the fiber. So I just go across to strengthen the fiber.
Okay, that makes sense. And that's going to help them with overall activation too. And then you're doing stuff for the psoas to open it up.
Yeah, so the psoas is actually one of the most painful muscles to work on because it's a deep muscle. It doesn't get touched very often. And so it's very uncomfortable. So we don't do a lot of work on it because it will fatigue really easily. So actually we could do, later on sometime, we could do a video of me demonstrating how to do it on Ashley.
Okay. Heck yeah.
Like,
I'll take it.
Like,
I need it. I need it.
And
I think it's also important to point out that not only the pelvic anterior tilt can, possibly create an injury and throw off your posture and not activate certain muscles, but also, since we are in a sport of a physique and aesthetics and visuals, it can throw off your physique too and how it looks, right? So, everyone wants a nice little arched back with their butt poking out, but also it can also kind of make your stomach do the same because your stomach kind of runs along the line of your spine. So Adam and Mary, if you kind of want to go into that a little bit, I think it's important to point things out that it's, there's more than just activation and injury prevention when it comes to that, or possible injury, when it comes to like the tilt. But there's definitely some other negative parts of it as well.
Yeah, for sure. Because when you do arch your back, your stomach is jutting out, and you definitely don't want to see that on stage. So you have to be able to kind of keep that balance to where you can keep your abs tight and also keep that arch.
Yes.
So, okay, so let's go into like a typical scenario. So I think the scenario is going to be probably most of the people watching this, listening to this. Okay, I've been bodybuilding for 2 years, right? And I'm like, man, I wish I had better activation. I wonder what I could do to get to the next level. They come into your office, right, and they get a massage. What is like the benefit to that person coming up? What do they need to be like looking for to even see if it's something that they need? I think that the best part of this podcast would be identifying issues if people need it and how it would benefit them in bodybuilding. Because people, what's funny is in the bodybuilding world, when I got out of when I was in school and I got done with my schooling and when I got done with my certifications and all that, I was like, I'm just going to educate the world and everyone's going to love it. Like, I'm going to talk about functional fitness and all this and like injury prevention and longevity. And then like I got into the real world of fitness and everyone's like, Adam, you can just stop with that shit. How do I get abs? Like, it's cool. If I die 5 years early and I had abs the whole time, it's cool. Like, let's not even talk about this functional fitness. Like, what is this? Give me abs, right? And that's how the world is. It's just the way it's always going to be, right? Until you get to like 50, then you're like, okay, maybe I should worry about this longevity thing. But injury prevention, all that, and I don't think people really. It's more about, okay, how do I look? How do I perform? Looks being first. How would I identify what's going to help me? Do I need it? How do I identify if I need it and how it will help me look better, right?
Okay, so a lot of my clients, they'll send me like posing pictures, and so they will just see like, hey, this shoulder's higher or this lat is not sticking out as far as the other one. So when they decide that they need something, it's either because they're in pain, they're restricted, like they just can't get the full range of motion, or they look at their picture and they're like, okay, I look uneven.
Okay.
And then when they come in and then I do their very first massage, I tell them every little thing I find. So I'll tell them what side is more dominant. So then I say maybe you should start doing like isolation work to work the left side because the right side's too big. Or I'll point out like every little knot I find, and then we like kind of come up with a game plan for how often they should come in. And sometimes there's times where I'm just like, you're fine. I don't really need to see you for a while.
So as far as like them, so you're basically saying you can kind of see it from a posing video. So someone could send you a posing video, see what you do, and then kind of come up with a game plan. And so they're coming in, and how fast can someone expect that to help their posing, help their
It really depends on the person. So if you do a lot of work at home, like if you stretch every day, if you're foam rolling, your water intake is good, and even age is a factor, because the younger we are, the faster we heal. So I can't really say how many, like, okay, if someone comes in for like a delt problem, I tell them it typically takes about 3 sessions to get it to go away. But then I get people who, they come in once and then I see them a couple months later and I'm like, oh, how's your shoulder? And they're like, oh, well, you fixed it in the first time. So sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes 1 session. It really just depends on what they're doing outside of the massage room.
Okay. And then as far as like their posing goes, so when you see someone pose, so what are some of the things that you're seeing, so they can kind of identify for themselves, what are some of the things that you're seeing in the posing that you're like, oh, that girl's tight? Like, what does she need to, like, how do you identify that?
If they're a little bit rigid when they're walking, that would be a good indicator that they're tight. But then I'll see like hip shifts, so maybe one hip is higher than the other, or there's like a trunk rotation, and then shoulders are a big giveaway because they're, you know, lined up with each other. So if one shoulder's higher, or just like one muscle is bigger than the other, or one looks stuck and the other one's hanging nicely. So there's a lot of just like, there's a lot of obvious things, but then there's also a lot of really subtle things that that we have to, that we have to kind of pick up on too.
One fist away, or you'll go in and out. Okay, okay, cool. So that's, I wanted to see how, I want to make sure that people can benefit the most from this. So an easy way to do that would be set up a time. They can send you a video, something like that, where they can identify. And then after that, after they go into their posing set, after they go into their session with you, you kind of give them like a homework thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a stretching homework thing. And then if they do that a lot, then hopefully they don't need to see you as often.
I give them ways to avoid me, really.
Okay, yeah.
So I have a question for you. Do you have like a story of an athlete that you greatly helped, right? Like night and day, started working with you, maybe they were so lopsided or whatever the case may be, and you started working with them and it made a whole lot of difference. And would you mind sharing one of those stories?
So I actually have 2 people that come to mind. One is a more long-term, and then one was like a quick fix. So both of them were quad related.
Okay.
One guy, he's a super heavyweight bodybuilder.
Okay.
So he was doing a national show. He came in twice a month before his show for, I say, about 4 months. So he had about like 10 surgeries on this knee, and the muscles in his quad were just night and day from the other side.
Oh.
So we spent about 4 months, and of course he had to do a lot of work in the gym, but we spent about 4 months getting all that scar tissue out and waking the muscle back up so he could go in and train it properly.
Oh, interesting. So it was a scar tissue buildup issue, basically, for that scenario.
So then by the time his show came around, you couldn't tell which muscle or which leg was the bad leg.
Okay.
So
before you go on to the next story, I think this is a really good question for you. Okay, so we're talking about scar tissue accumulation, which for him, it was an injury. But you don't necessarily have to have an injury, or maybe you're not even aware of an injury to get scar tissue. Is this correct?
Yeah.
And how would you know that you have scar tissue, and what causes it if it's not an injury then?
Well, I mean, we create scar tissue just from training, because we get micro tears every time we work out. And so over time that accumulates. And I wouldn't say that you would necessarily know.
Right, but you would, because you can feel it.
I can feel it. And
Interesting.
then when I use my scraping tool, it actually, like, the red part kind of highlights where the problem is.
Okay.
So I'll be working a muscle, and I'll feel that it's a little...
Crunchy?
Yeah, crunchy, or just kind of rougher.
Rough, okay.
And so I'll go in and I'll use my tool, and the tool's like, yeah, you were right. It was right there.
Oh, okay. So for everyone listening, that's the scraping tool is to basically break up that scar tissue then, huh?
Yep.
Okay. And what's the other story of somebody who you've greatly changed?
So the other one was, it was a quad again. The guy got in a car accident, and he wasn't training legs because his quad just was not working.
Oh, okay.
So after one session, it was activated, and he sent me a video of all the striations were like wiggling around, and he was like, I haven't been able to actually flex my quads in like years. And so now after just one session, now he gets to train his legs. So.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I have a question for you. Now, this is something I'm super fascinated with, and I don't think a lot of people even know much about it, but myofascial release. So what is the myofascial, and how does having a tight myofascial prevent your muscle then from growing? Because it's basically trapping it inside, right?
Yeah.
It's like your muscle's trying to grow, trying to expand, but it can't because it's so trapped in this cage. So explain, if you would please, what causes that, what is it exactly, and how you kind of combat that.
First, I want to recognize your muscle trying to grow voice first. You
I'm just trying to pop through.
You're like your muscles trying to. You always,
Just a little baby
whenever you
muscle.
describe muscles, they always sound so little and
Well,
petite with your.
because it is.
I could envision this sad muscle who's just like, I'm just trying to grow. Like
just
all my
trying
friends
to-
are getting
trying to
bigger than me,
grow
and
up.
I'm just short. He's like, I can see his muscle parent like drawing a line on the little wall, and he's like, I'm sorry, Charlie, like you're just not growing. You're just. It's so visual, Ashley.
And then like that. What is it? That song by Queen. I want to break free.
Yeah.
I want to break free.
This is your debut singing
want
on
to
our
break
podcast.
free.
We're like 130 in, and you're like started singing. Okay.
Well, it was my muscle. It
taking
was
it-
my delts.
We're taking
Actually,
a different direction
my
here.
delts are singing, not me.
Our viewership
See, look,
went down right now. Okay.
it's the one doing the talking.
Well,
the singing.
You're great at all things here, Ash. Look at this. You're a man of many traits, a woman of many traits.
And then shoulders, yes.
The shoulders are growing. They looked a little poppy this weekend. I gotta admit.
We're trying.
The
They're trying to break free.
shoulders they are trying to break free. They've been, you know what? They are singing. We've been trying to break. We told Ashley that she needs to work on her noodles. And
Boil the noodles.
I told Ashley, I was like, you just need to boil the noodles a little longer.
Boil the
Just
noodles. We're boiling. We're heating it up right now. We almost see a bubble. There's almost a bubble. Bubble's about to pop through.
The noodles right now, like last maybe 2 years ago, they were just those hard like packages you get spaghetti where it's like just really dry.
Yeah.
You're like 5 minutes in of cooking right now, where like a bad girlfriend will serve them to you, and you got to pretend you like the way they taste. You're like,
We're like al dente.
You're like, yeah, babe, they're great. And you're like, here, crunch, and you're like, gosh, this girl, I want to stay with her because she's nice, but I don't want to have this fight right now. So I'm just going to tell her it tastes good. So that's where they're at, but they're getting a little past that. They look pretty good.
They're trying.
They're
They're
doing-
trying their best.
Okay. Yeah. They have a good voice at least.
Yeah. There's that.
This is the podcast. This is the remaining 30 minutes.
We went from super scientific to this. Wow, that was quite the 180 there.
This is the podcast. Okay, what was even the question? Myofascia.
So what is the myofascia? Why does it, or how does it prohibit the muscle from growing and expanding? Because we all know in order for a muscle to grow, it has to expand, break down a little bit. So what is it about this myofascial stuff? Like, what is it,
So first we talked about knots kind of prohibiting that. So then when you go over to the fascia side of that, fascia
she says it fancy. I've been saying it wrong my whole life. I said fascia.
Other people
And she
say
says
fascia.
fascia.
I don't know.
It sounds like Prada. Like she's saying
I
it like.
chose fascia because I like how
Fascia, it's
I like
designer.
how it
Yeah.
sounds. So.
How do you say Christian Dior? How do you say Target? How do you say Target? That's what's
No, Target.
Target.
Fascia by Mary.
That's a new money class saying fascia.
That's what I picked. So anyways, fascia.
Ooh.
It encases the muscle. So it encases muscle fibers, each individual muscle and muscle groups. And it's also sticky. So you think of it as like a net. So it's holding your muscle together, because otherwise without it, your muscle is attached to the bone in two places. And without the fascia, your muscle would just droop off the bone. So it's just kind of holding everything in place.
Kind of like that film around the sausages.
Yep, that's exactly.
Okay.
And you can actually, like, not to get too gross with it, but if you hold up a steak and you see like that clear stuff that's holding the steak together, that's what it is.
Oh, interesting.
So if your fascia is restricted, so if you think of like a fishing net, how each little hole in the net is spaced out perfectly, but if you get a kink in it and you pull the net up, now like one side is a little bit tighter and the other side is like drooping, I guess.
Like a little tangle in a net or something. So one side is like getting more expansion.
And then it will make, if you have like a muscle group, it can make the muscle group look like one giant chunk of muscle.
Okay.
So I tell people, like if I work on a quad, since I keep talking about quads, I'm trying to take their quads and turn them from cinder blocks into each individual quad, so you can see all of the lines.
So that would be maybe one side effect of I guess you would call it a tight fascia. Is that how? But there's other, I guess, indications, right? Like kind of like maybe a painful pump, or is there any other?
There's nowhere for the muscle to go, so it's trying to expand, but it really can't. Yeah, because I think you were having that issue with your delts.
Yeah, I do get that painful pump feeling sometimes. Like it feels like more than just a pump. It feels like they're trapped.
Yeah, it's trying to expand.
Like, get me out of here.
Your shoulders have been kidnapped by the fascia.
Yeah. So I had last week I had a guy come in and he was like, "Hey, last time you worked on my legs, I swear they were 2 inches bigger than when I came in," and that was really just because I released the fascia to now the muscle can actually expand the way it's supposed to.
Interesting. So that could be like that could really make a difference. Like especially, when every little thing counts in this sport for your physique,
Yep.
I think it's important to realize that there could be other things going on inside your body. I mean, you might feel perfectly healthy. You might train so hard, your diet might be on point, but there's still some things that might be a little bit out of your control, but that you need to be aware of to be the best athlete you can actually be. And unfortunately, people are so busy these days. It's kind of like we forget about these little things that add up over time, those little things like stretching and getting regular massages, even getting like an assessment by you to see like, okay, where knots or your fascia is tight, and what can we do to improve? Because little things add up.
Yep.
Yeah, especially in the sport where you're talking about like a point deciding, a world championship, all the little things that you did throughout the year. Maybe you're just a little bit better. Like we always say that when we talk about like peak weeks and stuff, we're like, yeah, artificial sweeteners might not matter. Maybe they matter for some and not for, everyone when you cut them. But what if it makes you 1% better? Just 1%, and if you accumulate, 8 different things that are 1% better, well, that's, you're 8% better. That's a lot. That's a significant amount. So this is, I think, one of those things. I think it's more than 1% for something like this because you're talking about the whole year and being able to get more blood to the muscle and the muscle being, not restricted and growing more in size and not being entrapped like a sausage, like Ashley says. You ever seen those sausages stuffed? It's intestines is what they use. You know that? Yeah, my family owns a butcher shop. They made me do all that stuff when I was a kid. Yeah, it was terrible. They would say, we're gonna make you a man. We gotta go get the cows, and I would like go out. My cousin would bring the cows in, like it's like a half a cow. And they would, my cousin, he was this big burly dude. He's a butcher, and he was like, yeah, you got to go get the cows. And I'm like, dude, really? Like, I got to go get it? Like, it's like a side of beef. And so they would make me do it. My uncles would make you do it. You'd grab this big side of beef. Then you'd grab it's like a box of intestines. Like, it's just intestines. And then they like clean it out. And then you open it up and it smells. It was terrible, man. That's what they said it would make me tough. But anyway, they stuff it full of whatever it is. And they have like a machine. And they put the intestine on the machine. And then it just like spits it in. And then they wrap it and spits it in. Anyway. Isn't that
wonderful?
I'll take you. If we're ever in Orange County, California, I'll take you there. You'd want to see all the meat you're eating. If you see it behind the scenes, you're like, it's kind of gross. It's kind of gross. Anyway,
and that is why I don't eat sausage.
Yes. Goodness. So I've got a question. What does like a good muscle feel like to you? Like, is there a difference between, let's say, a muscle that you're like, okay, we need to work on this? Is it like super dense, or is a good muscle softer? Or how do you determine like what's a good muscle?
Soft
Soft muscle.
Yeah.
Okay.
So muscles are actually supposed to jiggle. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people in bodybuilding, they're like, oh, I'm supposed to be hard and I'm not, jiggle is fat. And I'm like, no, a good muscle full of blood and water, it moves easily.
Then why can't I twerk? I just don't understand. Like, I know the muscles there.
We got some work to do on those glutes. That's why.
I think I need you because I can't twerk. Nothing's jiggling back there.
That's our new goal.
Nothing is. It's.
you can't twerk.
I can.
You really can.
Maybe it's. I always blame it on my back, though. I always say it's my back arch.
Yeah. Oh. We have another special guest here that's not gonna release. The door was open, so hey guys, we have dudes is in for a visit. If you guys know, he's the gym dog, and I close my office door, but today we have Dudes as a visitor. He's got a new shirt on. He'll just go through his initial. I haven't seen Dad in a while. So where were we at? We're talking about
jiggly
twerking,
muscles,
and then a dog came in. This podcast has really gone downhill.
It's just all over the place.
You're singing.
My muscles are singing.
Beautiful.
Your delts.
Don't you take the credit away from my delts.
Your delts. Your sad delts.
Yeah.
Well,
they want to break free.
So anyway, where were we at on this?
Jiggly muscles.
Jiggly muscles.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Ashley's not a huge fan of dogs. She's not a huge fan.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm a cat person.
She's a cat person. Dudes has grown on her. When she first started seeing Dudes, she was like...
And not that I hate him, it's just like I don't know what to do. Do I touch him or do I just pat him on the head? Or how do you pet one of these things? What's the shelf life on one of these things? Where did this come from? I don't know. Oh, gosh.
All right, Dudes. Dad's doing a podcast. You guys go downstairs. Go ahead. Sorry.
Anyway, jiggly muscles. Any more to add about jiggly muscles?
I mean, everyone wants to see. I mean, I guess you don't want to see striation in bikini, but people love seeing striation, and that's fine when you're leaned out. But if you're not like super lean, and I can see all of the striations in your muscle, it's probably because it's tight fibers.
Interesting.
And so when I'm working on a muscle, I want it to be smooth. And I actually go in and I focus on like the individual fibers instead of just treating it as one giant muscle.
Okay.
And so I'll feel like, oh, you have one tiny little strip that's really tight. And so I'll try and work that out. And so I want it to look nice and smooth. And when I shake it, it jiggles. And so,
okay. So you could probably tell when a muscle's also like dehydrated then, huh?
Yep.
So that, that's important to stay hydrated, guys.
So, yeah. So I tell my competitors that the closer you get to a show, the harder the massage is going to be for me to perform and for you to handle, because one, your body fat is so low that you don't have any cushion to help soften the blow of my fists of fury. And then also you're so dried out that the muscle is not as pliable, because the more water in it, the easier it is for me to manipulate it.
Okay, cool. I mean, that's very interesting. I'm sure like you've felt it all, felt all the different types of muscles in there. So goodness gracious. All right. Well, I'm curious what, we talked a little bit about scraping. We talked about the deep tissue. So you also do the cupping as well, right? So what benefits does cupping do? Because I think maybe I tried cupping once. I wasn't a fan. I mean, it didn't feel nice, and I don't like the marks.
Yeah.
But
so scraping and cupping are actually really similar. Mm-hmm. So the things that we're focused on is the range of motion, breaking up scar tissue, blood flow. So that's what people think of with cupping, is because it is a suction, so it's pulling blood to the surface. I stopped doing the stationary cups where you just see all the marks up and down the back or wherever I stopped doing that. Because I mean, it is beneficial and it looks cool if you like that, and it's great.
Looks cool.
It's
Who
great.
likes that?
Yeah,
People's like, I'm gonna wear these to go out tonight.
Yeah, people are like, oh, this is like badass, and I'm like, okay, that's great because it's advertising for me.
Advertising, you can make the cups in your own
you should put your
logo
on
or
it.
something.
Yeah. Like I've had someone ask me to do a smiley face on his back, and I did it just because it's fun and I could take a picture and post it on Instagram. But I actually prefer when you move the cups around, because it's decompressing the muscle. So I like to do it on lats when people can't get their lats to flare. I'll put a cup on their lat and I'll pull the cup away from them to try and get the lat to spread out. And then so I run it up and down. So now we're not getting that big concentration of blood just pooling at the surface. And then the marks go away faster that way too.
That makes sense. Interesting. Does anybody have any good questions so far on our live chat?
So we're on live, guys, too. So if you guys are watching on YouTube or listening, you can always join us about 11:30 or so on my Instagram, Team Elite Physique, and we have some questions coming in. So let's see here. We actually had quite a few. Just everyone. See, Ashley, everyone likes the dudes. That's the dudes. Says a lot of the comment. So when dudes hit, the comments came in.
I know. I feel like chopped liver. Like they don't like me. They like the dog.
Dudes is always going to be the hit. So someone said need to know a little bit more about the fascist stretching. Another one is, I think we kind of answered it. It was about. Sorry, I'm just going through them here. So anything that you can help with, like fascia stretching. So let's say, obviously, a lot of our listeners are not going to be able to come down to Las Vegas and see you. How are they going to benefit from it? Like, what are some of the just tips that you would give someone? Let's say, like a bodybuilder out there, a bikini competitor. She's like, I think I have tight quads, and I need to get my quads to grow, and I feel like I'm being restricted on them. They're just not growing. Maybe I should try this. What are some of the things that you would say they can do on their own?
Well, I would say first, just try and do regular muscle stretching by yourself. And if you're not finding that that's helpful, then you probably do have fascial restrictions. So you can Google or look on Yelp or somebody called a fascial stretch therapist, and they will actually take you through like a 30-minute or an hour routine. And so it's completely different than like a sports stretch. So sports stretching is just focused on the muscle, and then so they'll actually target the fascia itself.
Okay, so stretching and then finding someone in their area. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. There's a lot of people joined in comments. I'm going through them right now.
Do you believe in the foam rolling and the mobility ball if they're unable to get to like a sports massage?
So I do.
Is it too overhyped? Do you think? Because it's a hot topic. You know,
I think that the foam roller is a little overhyped. So it's a very broad tool. So it can't really get into the crevices.
Right.
So I actually tell people to use a lacrosse ball instead.
Okay, so the ball is better than the roller.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
So since my massages can be more painful, people that aren't used to the pressure, I tell them to foam roll to get used to applying pressure to their body. But if they have like a knot that's really bothering them, then I tell them to go get a lacrosse ball.
Interesting.
Well, there's a good tip. I like that. That's something that they can do on their own.
Yep.
So, okay, a couple of things they can do on their own. They can send you an assessment, see if they can come in. If you're in Vegas, you probably, just so you guys know, you should probably contact her way before you come. She does get pretty busy.
At least a week or two out.
Yeah. And then a lacrosse ball for muscles they feel are maybe not getting a good pump, that are feel overly tight and stretching. And then water. So for me, I recommend our athletes to drink 1 ounce per pound of weight of water per day. That's kind of my rule of thumb. I don't know if you have a different one for someone who's got a massage and they need more. They're in the more of the corrective stage at this point, like trying to get things right. Is that about right for you too?
So deep tissue, it pulls up a lot of toxins because we were talking about blood flow and how if the muscle's tight, blood can't come in and out. So when I open up the body and get your blood flowing, a lot of the toxins that have just been sitting in your muscle will get flushed out. And so I tell people they need to drink more water just so they don't get sick. Because you can get a massage fever just from all the toxins, like you're not used to it. So all the toxins coming up at once.
I hear the little shuffles.
I'm a very handsy person.
Are you Italian? No, just kidding.
So yeah, I always recommend to drink more water the day of the massage just to get everything flushed out. Okay. And then the more water you drink, the easier it is for me to do my job.
Okay, cool. And then I have a good question from Van's Girl 83. She says, what's your take on incorporating massage with chiropractic and muscle release therapies?
We are actually supposed to pair chiropractic with massage because the muscle is actually what's pulling the bone out of place in most cases, unless you had like an accident. So if you just keep going to get an adjustment done, the bone is just going to pop right back out of place. So you want to get the massage first and then like the next day or two, then go get adjusted. That way the adjustment actually stays.
Interesting. You know, whenever I got my massage from you, I swear it felt like I just got done with a really intense workout. Yep. Can you explain why that does feel like you just had the workout of your life?
Basically you did. So instead
of
you
did.
Well, yeah,
I mean, you worked harder
I did the
than
work.
Me.
So that's the cool thing is that you are getting an intense workout, but you're not the one that did the work. So just like when you're in the gym, you're tearing your muscle fibers to get them to grow. I'm tearing them to get them to let go. And then in the process, you just got a cool workout.
Interesting. So there is I guess, I don't know if it's a myth or whatever, a saying, I don't know. Does massage burn calories? What is your take on that? Because I feel like that is a very, I've heard both sides of the argument. I've heard, no, not really. And then I heard, oh, yeah, it burns up to 600 calories. What is your take, or what is your thoughts about that?
I would say for an athlete, just consider it a myth, because any activity you do is going to burn calories.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you burn calories when you're sleeping. You burn calories when you're healing. Sure. So yes, you are burning calories. Massage does speed up the metabolism, which will in turn make you burn more calories.
And that's by kind of breaking the muscle down so they have to then recover? Is that where it comes from?
So really, I would say you're burning more after you leave the massage
room.
Unless you're like tensed up the whole time. So you might burn more calories if you're tensed up, but I'm going to try and make sure that you're not tensed up.
That's what's
But yeah, so I would say, like, don't say, hey, I get to skip cardio today because I got a massage. Like, still do your cardio.
Darn. I was going to use that one next week, Adam. I was going to use that one. Shoot.
But yeah, so I wouldn't say use it as an excuse to, like, skip something in your routine. But
that's a good point. Yeah. Should somebody do maybe a little bit of cardio the following day to get everything kind of pumping and flowing again?
I mean, you want to do some type of active recovery anyways.
Right.
So, like, so people ask me all the time, should I work out the same day as my massage? And I tell them, I prefer you don't.
It's like a 2 workouts.
Yeah. But if you are going to, try and do it before and then just do moderate. Don't go crazy heavy, because, yeah, it is like if you did a heavy workout and then you got a deep tissue, it's like doing 2 heavy workouts in one day. And that's just going to damage the muscle it's not going to be beneficial.
Okay. Interesting.
And then if you do it after, then you could potentially undo all of my hard work. And so you just pretty much lost a bunch of money and you're back to square one.
Yeah. That's not fun.
Okay.
But,
so yeah, we'll go into another question. So I didn't see another question, but someone in a comment, Anthony says he loves you for the rest of his life, Ashley, with a little heart.
Anthony?
Oh,
It's okay.
There's a heart and a flexi.
I can't even do ho.
I love you for the rest of my life.
I'm sure that's his exact accent.
He's probably him. Is that stereotyping French? Is that French? Is that what's going on?
I don't know. It reminds me of like Pepe Le Pew.
I'm so offensive. That's great. Any more? People are laughing at them, but that's what the comments are. Let's see. Any more? What's the best way to eliminate or improve scar tissue?
well, I mean, in the gym, you can't really eliminate it, but so like if someone is working on an injury, you don't want the scar tissue to harden. So I tell people, if you have an injury, you can buy scrapers on Amazon. And so I can show you how to do it. You can come in multiple times a week. That's fine with me. But I can show you how to use it, and then you just you scrape the area, and then you let it heal, and then you scrape it again, and you just keep doing that until it's gone.
I've got a question. So what is like a common issue that you hear that maybe you wouldn't be able to help, right? Like maybe their expectations are a little bit too high on improving a muscle or whatever the case may be, or maybe it's like just a genetic asymmetry that you really can't, genetically muscles are placed in different spots or whatever, because I don't think a lot of people know about like muscle insertions itself and stuff like that. So there are some things that you can't really, even with training, you can't even fix. But what is a common thing that you hear from people that you're just like, oh, might not be able to help, or that might not be beneficial?
So, I mean, a lot of the guys, they have that gap in their chest, and so they try to get rid of that, and I'm just like, sorry, that's just how your muscle's attached. There's nothing I can do about it.
Interesting.
Let's see, what other things that I can't really fix. So a lot of people see the imbalances, and, like, they'll say, okay, well, this side's bigger than this side, and I go in, and I'm just like, sorry, you just got to train that side harder.
Right. So then you would find out then, like, it's not necessarily there's no scar tissue, there's no tense muscles, it's just
It's just you have
It's
one
just-
dominant side, and
Exactly.
that's normal for every human on the planet. But in bodybuilding, it's just not as acceptable.
Right.
So I
yeah.
have to give them the bad news that they just have to train harder.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's interesting too. It's like sometimes you don't even know when one muscle group is bigger than the other until you get like a body scan, and then you find like, oh, my right bicep is bigger than my left. And we have a scanner here, and it's very interesting to see like, oh wow, I thought my arms were the same, but one is a little bit bigger, and that is very common. It's almost impossible for it to be super perfectly matched.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen anybody where I'm like, wow, you're perfect.
yeah.
So everything is perfectly symmetrical. I usually have them walk away feeling like they're a mess, because I'll be like, okay, this delt is bigger than this delt. This bicep's bigger than this bicep. And they're like, what is wrong with me? I'm like, you're normal.
You're normal. Yay! Congratulations.
They're like, but I don't want to be normal. I'm like, then,
Yeah, I feel like
then
they're
train harder.
they probably are kind of wanting a little scapegoat to like,
Yeah.
oh, well, the reason why this is not looking as good is because I got scar tissue in there or something. But in reality, it's like, nope, you just need to train that side a little harder, do some unilateral movement.
That's what's wrong. I have scar tissue everywhere. That's what's inhibiting
You're just
inhibiting
one
me from
big
my Olympia
scar.
title.
You are just one big
It's
scar.
a special condition. What do you know? I don't like to get people's sympathy. That's why I don't win the Olympia. It's just scar tissue. It's not me eating excessively and not doing cardio. Scar tissue.
Scar tissue.
Scar tissue got me again.
Oh, man.
It's inhibiting me from my success.
It's the excuse for everything.
It was. I got pulled over the other day by a cop. I was like,
Scar
that's a
tissue."
scar tissue. It's on the bottom of my foot. I wasn't going this fast. It was the scar tissue. I was traveling at regular speeds. The scar tissue flying by.
Goodness gracious. If only that mobility was better.
Yes, if only the mobility.
Jeez, goodness gracious.
All right. So to conclude this with everyone, I guess the main topics we got was assess yourself, overly tight muscles, stretch them a little bit, keep your water high, use a lacrosse ball not only to win and score goals in lacrosse, but to get your muscles super. What are you doing with these things? You're rubbing. So actually, that's what we didn't do. We didn't talk about how you would use a lacrosse ball. Right? Go up against a wall. What people do.
Yeah, you could do it up against the wall or on the floor. So you're pretty much targeting knots. So there's a technique in massage called trigger point therapy, and it's where the nerve and the muscle meet. And so that's where the knot builds up. And knots, you just have to apply pressure to them. So what I do is I stick either an elbow or a finger on them, and I hold it for 15 to 30 seconds, and then I flush the tissue. So I'm like, I'm kind of like saying sorry, but I'm also just like flushing all the ickiness out, and then I do it again. And then you just do that like 6 times.
Okay.
Until it's so tender that you're like, okay, I'm done.
So you trigger it, rub it out, saying sorry. See that,
Yeah.
Ashley? When you trigger me, you never say sorry.
Oh,
Just
gotta
constant
apologize.
triggers.
sorry
Yeah.
for all future triggerings. Sorry in advance. And for all the past.
So, and then another thing is people ask, how do I know I'm on the right spot? And then I just tell them, if it hurts really bad, then you're on the right spot.
Okay, cool. All right, so there's that, and then and if they needed to get any help, they can send you a video, and then to find what was it? How did they look it up again? And there was a fascial. What'd you call it?
Fascial stretch therapist.
And you can actually search that as a search.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't even know you could search something like that specifically. I could just type in massage, and so.
So there are 2 different. So anybody can be certified as a fascial stretch therapist. So massage therapist, that would be an extra certification that we would have to go get.
And they will actually advertise that, like in the Google, like if they Googled it or something like that, it would actually show up. Okay.
So there's people in town who do massage and fascial stretch, and then there's people who just do that, and they're not massage therapists. So you could go to them to just get stretched, or you could go to someone who's dual certified and licensed, and they can do both at the same time.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, cool.
Very
That's good to
interesting.
know. Good to know. All right, cool. So anything, you got any extra questions, Ashley? I think these questions are done here. If you guys have any questions now,
covered
give
it
it
all.
time.
Do you have anything else that you think that would be important for our listeners to hear?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, we covered it all, I guess.
Wait, hold on. I got one more question. It says, would just I can't even read it. I was just laughing so hard. Would just bouncing on a resistance mat loosen up a tight muscle?
Probably not.
Yeah.
A resistance mat?
Someone trolling me. That's a great. Yeah, but I don't know. How do you do
What's
that?
a resistance mat?
Good question. Just a mat. Yeah, I didn't even think about. We didn't even put that together. That went right by us. That one. That's funny. So a mat. I'm imagining a mat. That's great. That's great. Whoever did that was a genius. Genius question. I loved it.
It went over my head. I
That's why it's just funny. It's just I was cracking up reading it. So this is a fun one. Hey, I got some badges bought on my Instagram too. I got like $3.36 I made on this. I'll split this with you guys in between the three of us. That's $1.12 each.
Oh my gosh.
All in.
Wow.
So, all right. Well, I guess with that, guys, and my new monetary gain and my gotta get out of here in my new Ferrari. But with these gas prices, I'm not getting very far. These gas prices, I'm just going around the block. Oh what do they say? I used to drive around the block to clear my mind, and now I drive around the block to clear my bank account. Well, anyway, guys, with that, I'll see you.
You're quite the character today,
You know what?
Adam. What's gotten into you?
I don't know. You won,
You're
and
goofy.
it makes me feel good when you won. You know, it's right in here.
Oh,
It's right in here. It's a good feeling.
Right in scar tissue,
So
huh?
just keep winning. You know, no pressure. Just keep doing it. It's great.
Oh, yeah, by the way, shirt of the day.
Shirt of the day. This is Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler's, what is this even?
Oink. Oink.
Yeah, it's just a pig. It's
pig.
cool. It's cool. I like it. So shout out to Jay Cutler with these cool shirts. I paid full price. Thanks, Jay. Well, anyway.
I know what it is. You saw the Puff the Dragon comedy show.
I did see
and
it.
now you feel like you got the comedy chops. That must be it.
It's in my system. I went to the Piff the Magic Dragon show last night, and they pulled me on stage. And it was my big debut, my big Las Vegas debut. Yeah, you know, I was on a big Vegas stage, no big deal, you know. So, anyway, guys, I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be normal next week.
No, don't be.
I was watching too much Crowder. Is what it was. Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.